Hey everybody, this is Jake Wynn, Director of Interpretation from the National Museum of Civil War Medicine. We are out here on the Wilderness Battlefield on the anniversary of the battle to talk about the Battle of the Wilderness, to talk about the medical aspects of that battle and some medical stories, as well as to give kind of an overview of the Battle of the Wilderness as it was fought. We are on the ground where some of that fighting actually took place. I'm joined right now by my friend and colleague Ryan Quint from the National Park Service. He's going to join us today to give us kind of an overview of the Battle of the Wilderness, how these armies came to be here and came to be fighting here. And then I'll add in some medical context as well as kind of where the medical situation stood in the spring of 1864, some of the lessons we've learned, and also some of the challenges that are going to be faced during the course of this battle. If you are watching this, you're watching this on our YouTube channel. You can assist us by subscribing to our channel. You can hit the subscribe button under the video. You can also help us by liking that video, hitting that thumbs up. If you have any questions over the course of this program, while we aren't doing these live at the moment, we will go into the comments section and answer any questions that you might have. So if you do have any questions related to this program as you're watching it, please go ahead and drop those into the comments, and we'll get to those and answer those questions as best as we can. So let's dive into the program here for you all today. Ryan Quint is going to give us a bit of an overview of this battle. I'll just step off here to off camera and turn it over to you for the moment.
All right. Thanks, Jake. When you talk about the Battle of the Wilderness and the Overland Campaign, it's best to start in March of 1864 with the promotion of Ulysses S. Grant to Lieutenant General of the United States Army. And from that point forward, every single United States soldier answers to Grant. And Grant needs to figure out, okay, what are we going to do to defeat the Confederacy? And he decides to make his headquarters in the field with the Army of the Potomac. He is not in charge of the Army of the Potomac per se. That still remains George Gordon Meade's army. However, Grant's going to be in the field with the Army of the Potomac, realizing it's best to fight with the dog in the background. Just keep going. Okay, so with Grant's intention, hello puppy.
Hi.
It's Grant's intention to be in the field with the Army of the Potomac in an attempt to defeat Robert E. Lee in the Army of Northern Virginia. Grant realizes Lee is the Confederacy's strongest army. It's the symbol of the Confederacy by the spring of 1864, and so Grant decides to make his plans around that effort to destroy Lee. The Army of the Potomac was located across the rivers from us in Culpeper. And so in early May of 1864, Grant's going to bring the Army of the Potomac across the Rappahannock and Rapidan rivers and come into an area known as the Wilderness, which had already seen extensive fighting in the Civil War. Grant, with around 120,000 soldiers, is going to try to get through the Wilderness as soon as possible and use his manpower advantage to defeat Robert E. Lee. Lee, with about 60,000, 65,000, is hoping to stay in the Wilderness to mitigate those numerical differences. Lee has already had success in the Wilderness in May of 1863 at Chancellorsville. He's already had success here in Mine Run the previous fall. And so he's hoping to use those same advantages, the scraggly bushes and the thickets, which mitigate the numerical advantages and kind of hem in the armies. One last thing to realize is that this is also a new campaign in the idea that it's not just one army against one army. Grant is ordering all United States armies to move at the exact same time. Grant and Meade are going to move against Lee. Benjamin Butler is going to move against the Bermuda Hundred. Franz Sigel is going to move down up the Shenandoah Valley. William T. Sherman is going to move against Atlanta. Nathaniel Banks is going to move up the Red River. And the idea behind that is to keep constant pressure along the entire Confederate front. If you don't allow the Confederates to bring men and resources and reinforcements, you're going to seal off their ability to meet those individual threats. That's Grant's intention on May 4th. Fighting begins the next day on May 5th. And we're going to see how that campaign and that idea rapidly breaks down in this dense, close wood, as one soldier comes to call it. So with that, we'll bring Jake back, and we'll see what our next stop is.
Yeah, so that's thank you for a great overview, Ryan, of kind of where we are. And I want to kind of bring in the medical component of this before we move on to our next stop. In 1864, in the spring of 1864, there have already been major advances in battlefield medicine. We are at a stage where there have been a lot of hard lessons learned A lot of hard lessons learned by Union and Confederate armies in this war already. And among the biggest challenges that was facing these armies at the beginning of the war was the lack of infrastructure, the lack of logistics around battlefield evacuation. And by 1864, a lot of these challenges have been directly faced head on. Try to accomplish a system, create a system by which you can quickly evacuate wounded soldiers from the battlefield. And so on this campaign in the spring of 1864, we're going to see the United States Army and the Confederate Army utilizing systems that they have tried to hone over the course of the war so far to this point. In the United States Army, the legacy of the innovations of Jonathan Letterman, someone you followers of the National Museum of Civil War Medicine have heard a lot about. He is not here with the Army of the Potomac as they're going into this campaign, having resigned from the Army of the Potomac, having moved to a station in Pennsylvania in 1864. His successor is a surgeon named Thomas McParland. That is a name for some of you that will be pretty familiar as well if you watched our second Manassas live stream videos. McParland was the medical director of the Army of Virginia in August of 1862. We talked a bit about him. He is brought in as Letterman's replacement to carry on with the systems that Letterman put in place. Battlefield evacuation, being cared for in a system from the moment a soldier is wounded on the battlefield, to a field dressing station, to a field hospital, back to general hospitals for rehabilitation. That system has been implemented in the spring of 1864, not only in the Army of the Potomac, which is going to do the fighting here at the Wilderness, but in the entirety of the United States Army. An ambulance bill passes through Congress, is signed into law in March of 1864, in the months leading up to this battle. So that is a major change, innovation taking place on these battlefields. The medicine itself that is being practiced in the United States Army has changed drastically as well as a result of innovations like the Army Medical Museum. The collection of data and medical specimens means that there are decisions being made by surgeons in field hospitals here at the Wilderness that are going to be different than those decisions made in previous engagements like Gettysburg, going back to Antietam when Letterman first implemented his system. More and more amputations are being performed because they know by studying the data that amputations quickly performed on the battlefield save lives. So those kind of decisions being made on battlefields like this have been changing over the course of the conflict because of the collection of data and studying the medicine that is taking place on these battlefields. Now, we are in close proximity to Confederate lines, and there are innovations in Confederate medicine as well. You can't see him, but my colleague Kyle Dalton is just behind the camera, has done some great work in terms of looking at Confederate medical organization and logistics and the challenges that they faced, lacking just about everything that their Union counterparts have, how they were able to cobble together a makeshift system of battlefield evacuation, using in some cases private ambulance companies that are going to get involved, trying to organize their own stretcher bearers and ambulances. And in this campaign, they're going to be taking a page out of their colleagues across the lines from the United States Army, and their medical logistics in this campaign are going to be based around a railroad that is going to connect wounded soldiers that are going to be evacuated in ambulances from this battlefield, going to be taken on to Charlottesville, Virginia, to Lynchburg, Virginia, via rail, and then on many of them on to Richmond as well. So those are innovations that caring for soldiers from the moment they are wounded on the battlefield and having a system as organized or in some cases disorganized as it may be, having that system is an innovation by the spring of 1864 we have seen across the war zone. And that is going to take place right here. There are massive casualties at this battle. In 2 days of fighting, upwards of 28,000 casualties.
Yeah, close to 30. Yeah, so pretty close to 28,000 people, 2 days.
And significant numbers of wounded soldiers. And we're going to get into some of these stories a little bit later, stories that you may be familiar with from this battle, of fires burning on this battlefield that are going to wreak havoc among the wounded soldiers. And we're going to get into specifics as well of some of the soldiers who were wounded here, some of their caregivers as well, stretching from here on the Wilderness battlefield back to Fredericksburg, Virginia. We hope you'll join us for the rest of these programs. Again, if you enjoy the program, please subscribe subscribe to our channel, hit the like button on this video, as well as become a member of the National Museum of Civil War Medicine, and you'll support content like this. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.